Hey guys, on this video, yes, I'm driving again, but yes, I do have my seatbelt on, so I am safe, and I'm really going to go ahead and pay attention to the road. But anyways, on this video, I'm going to kind of set the boundaries for you to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure on a rent-to-own home, and because you don't want to fail. I mean, you don't want to fail on a rent-to-own home. You don't want to get into a home that you can't afford. Or anything like that. So one thing that you should really do whenever you are found a home onto our list, you've talked to our rent-to-own specialist and everything like that, one thing that you should really honestly do is talk to a loan officer and or a credit counselor, somebody that can tell you what your payments are going to be on that house, not necessarily whenever you are going to be renting the home until you buy it, but whenever you're going to be purchasing the house outright. And the reason is because you don't want to get into a situation on a rent-to-own where, you know, your rent payments, the seller or whoever is selling you the home is setting the rent payments really low. And, you know, you can definitely afford a beautiful house, but they've priced it really low. Which does happen, and then you go to finance that house because a rent-to-own, you're actually going to own that house. But then whenever you go to finance that house, you know, payments on it are going to be a lot higher than what your rent was. So we do run into that situation, actually probably more than what you would think. But you want to make sure that you are prepared for that. You want to make sure that you're prepared for that, and you're not actually getting into a rent-to-own home that you cannot afford. So what you need to do is you need to first of all, you need to talk to your rent-to-own specialist by contacting them in the email, or you should be talking to a loan officer, or your rent-to-own specialist will help you, put you in contact with a loan officer / credit counselor. And basically what that person will do is they'll tell you exactly they'll tell you exactly what you can afford, but they'll also tell you exactly what your payments are going to be upon the purchase price of the home, whatever you're purchasing the house for, and they're going to calculate that with the taxes and everything else and where it's at, and they're going to be coming up with payments. And what you want to know is that with your job that you can actually afford those payments, not necessarily as if you were your rent payments, but you want to make sure that you can, like if you're buying a house for $100,000 and your rent payments until you buy the house are $400, say, which they probably wouldn't be any of those figures, but say they're $400, but whenever you go and buy that house at $100,000, your payments are going to be $650, say. And you don't want to set yourself up for failure to where, you know, you go and purchase the house and then your payment goes up, you know, because you're buying the house at $100,000 and then you cannot afford that payment, so then you can't buy it. So you want to go ahead and set yourself up for success and do that ahead of time. Talk to a credit counselor, your rent-to-own specialist, and a loan officer to find out what your payments will be based upon that purchase price, so that you know that you can afford that house down the road whenever your credit does get fixed, or you go ahead and raise your credit score to where you can buy a house. So you've got to set yourself up right from the beginning, because if not, if a seller prices the rent too low on a rent-to-own home, you'd probably just go ahead and say, well, I'll just rent it forever. Well, that's not what a rent-to-own is. You're going to actually rent to own it. So whenever you own it, you don't want to be surprised and have your payments, if you cannot afford it, be $300 higher than what your rent payment would be. We do run into that, you know, probably more than what it should happen, but we always set everybody up for success so that they don't run into that problem down the road, because we want all these to go through. So, you know, so that you don't get mad at us or anything like that. So definitely do that so that you set yourself up for success so that you can afford your payments. So really good tip, and I would highly advise doing it. So all you got to do is get a hold of your rent-to-own specialist, and they'll talk to you soon.